Order, please. This regular meeting of the Joshua Basin Water District Board of Directors for March 20, 2024 is now in session at 17:30 hours. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is just here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item 2, determination of a quorum. General Manager Johnson, a roll call vote, please.
President
Call,
Collins.
please. It's present.
Vice President Doolittle.
Here.
Director Fick.
Here.
Director Jarlsberg.
Here.
Director Short.
Here. Thank you very much. Everyone's here, so there's no consideration of remote participation. Yeah, approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve this evening's agenda? Make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Public comment. This designated time is for members of the public to provide comments on any district-related matter, whether appearing on the agenda or not. Under provisions of the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. At the discretion of the board president, comments on a particular agendized item may be deferred until that item is heard. And do we have any public comment? We're not the public anymore, David.
No, not, but I did notice we don't have a lawyer.
Yeah, Jeff.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Have to be careful. Item number 5, consent calendar. The consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. If a board member would like an item handled separately, it will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. We have 2 items on the consent calendar: the draft board meeting minutes from March 6th, and we have the check register in January of 2024. Yeah. Does anyone want to remove an item from the consent calendar for discussion?
We all look at her. Oh, yeah.
Very well. Stand by.
The,
Stand
check
by.
register.
Stand by.
Oh,
But okay. Okay. So, let's see. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar minus item B? I'll make the motion. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. So we've approved the motion carried. Item 6 is now the check register for January of 2024. Board comments or questions?
okay, I just had a couple of quick things. They're mostly just well, not so much clarification, but for the public. They may be interested in, on page 7 of the check register, about 2/3 down, the Barrett engineered pumps. And my question was, I believe it's E2-1
Yes.
booster station pump replacement. Is this part of the work that's being done on E2?
This,
Is that anticipating the work?
it's that reservoir we're gonna be doing work on. This is the booster station that feeds that reservoir. And we just happen to have, the life expectancy of that pump fail. So we had to replace it.
Oh, okay, so good timing then, probably.
Good timing.
Okay. And the other thing I had was just noted the large amount that the Mojave Water Agency gets for water recharge purchase. And I wondered if there are any more purchases beyond this one. It's
What page?
250, I'm sorry, page 9, towards the bottom. There's about 250.
I believe that's the
1,000.
end of our 2023 purchases.
That's it.
The
Okay,
last calendar year, we've done water banking this calendar year of 505 acre feet. That is banked, so it will not be charged until the district decides to purchase it
okay.
Give a discount.
with a 15% discount.
Yeah, okay, that's all that I found. That I wanted, a little more information. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? I'm sorry, motion to approve the check register for January 2024.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. The action calendar, item 7, Southwest Networks contract renewal. Presented by General Manager Johnson and Director of Administration, David Shook. General Manager Johnson, introductions or anything, comments, please?
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we are bringing you the renewal of the Southwest Networks contract. Southwest is our IT outsourced contractor that does all of our IT, computer, software, and server work for us. We've had a relationship with Southwest for a little over 10 years, and I'm going to pass that over to Director of Administration, David Shook, to discuss this a little bit further.
Good evening, everyone. Is the mic working all right?
Yeah, we can hear you well. That's good.
After evaluating various IT support options, including a proposal from Visual Edge IT, the district staff recommends renewing a 3-year contract with Southwest Networks. Southwest has proven to be a valuable asset to the district for nearly 10 years and advises on measures to safeguard the district, which translates ultimately to protecting our customers. This renewal incorporates 3 notable upgrades to our existing contract: enhanced spam and phishing protection through Office 365 Defense, continuous monitoring and protection of our systems and data via the Managed Security Operations Center, or SOC, and the implementation of Zero Trust principles, which enhance multi-factor authentication for all of our users and device authentication. Excuse me. If we decline any of these, we have to report that to our insurance. So we don't want that to become an issue, so we wanted to add that to our contract. So renewing this IT contract is imperative for maintaining seamless technological support and stability within our organization. And the ongoing collaboration with Southwest also fosters a deeper understanding of our organization's needs, leading to tailored solutions and improved efficiency over time. Once again, ultimately protecting us and our customers. So included in the staff report are multiple references to recent online cyber attacks for various entities. And just yesterday, and again today, we received a report that the Biden administration is sent a warning to all 50 state governors that there are entities out there targeting water, drinking water systems and wastewater systems.
I saw that.
So now I'd like to introduce you to Matt Fisher, who is the owner and CEO of Southwest. If you would, Matt, please join us.
I want to thank you for having me here today to speak with you. We appreciate our long-term partnership with you, and we hope that that continues long into the future. As mentioned, we did start working with the district back in 2008 and entered into our first contract with the district in 2014. Our primary focus is on the Coachella Valley, but all of Southern California. We've worked with various entities such as power plants, city, local governments, down to CPA and local firms. The big difference between us is we're very security focused, as mentioned with some of the new security that we're recommending be added to the contract. That starts from the top down. I took it upon myself 3 years ago to get a certification that's really highly sought out by Fortune 500 companies. Now, my clients could really care less about that. I did this to showcase our commitment to security and how seriously we take it. So from the top down, we all have a heavy focus on security. So we are very security focused in everything we do. We have enjoyed a long relationship with the staff. We meet regularly with them quarterly to go over any needs of the district, things that we see coming that might be appropriate for the district to implement or change out. I also frequently, at a minimum, attend 4 industry events, if you will, to keep on top of these things. As you know and see in the news, security and IT and computers change as fast as you can purchase one. As soon as you buy a computer, it seems like it's outdated and something needs to be replaced already. We've all gone through that. When it comes to security, as mentioned, the Biden administration released something yesterday. We're constantly seeing new attacks. As soon as we find a way to plug a hole here, 3 holes pop up over there. AI is starting to lead that threat vector, making it easier for people with no hacking experience to really produce and cause mischief to organizations. So the goal with some of the recommendations that we've made is, again, not make you the low-hanging fruit. If someone really wants to break into somewhere, we want to make it as difficult as possible. We're going to make them earn their money if they really want it. So we're implementing new things to constantly alert us 365, 24/7. Some of the security operations centers that we're doing, where we have a third-party human actually watching in conjunction with us to ensure that the systems, we don't see any weird behavior going on at night. Most of the time, hacks aren't going to happen during work hours because if you're sitting in front of the computer and it starts to act strange, it's probably going to call attention to itself. So they are starting to attack systems more frequently after hours. But we also need those systems left on after hours so we can do maintenance and upkeep and do scans and things of that nature. And certain things require, like SCADA, require to be running 24/7, 365. So we want to ensure we're constantly monitoring those systems. Social media is constantly bringing stuff out in our personal lives. There's a lot of different things I could talk about, and I could go on forever. I don't want to put anybody to sleep. But I'm here to answer any questions, concerns, security related or contract related.
Questions and comments, Vice President Doolittle.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for being here. And so this SOW and this contract is for how long? What duration?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. And I'm going to say I don't feel too well right now. So I was trying to think of some questions and not think of them. I was trying to articulate them ahead of time and I was word searching. And so I'm going to probably be doing that. So I know a little bit about technology. It's something. So I was interested in what you were going to say about the social media stuff. So what is the name of the security certification you received?
My CIS, which is the Certified Information System Security Professional. It's from ISC 2.
Okay.
They do a number of one. I had a PIS as well for healthcare. I decided to discontinue it.
Oh, okay. So what I see I was looking on page 4 of 11 of the Southwest Networks page numbering. What is a BDR?
Backup and disaster recovery. That's basically another server we have here on premise that is constantly backing up the servers at a set pace, backs it up locally, and then we also send it to the cloud. So in case earthquake, fire, I'm not going to say a hurricane because the odds of that would be really weird. But we can then we can recover in the cloud. Right. That data is stored in the cloud, encrypted up to a year. So if something were ever to happen, we can restore in the cloud and get access to those systems. And that BDR appliance can also take over for failed hardware. If, for instance, something happened to the server hardware itself, that appliance could take over temporarily for the failed server.
It becomes a server. So that's why we have it instead of just directly backing up to the cloud.
Correct.
Okay.
And backing up directly to the cloud can cause other issues. Internet is expensive in our area. So if we were constantly backing up the amount of data you have, the internet would be fairly unusable.
Yeah, because I'm concerned about fire. Actually, when I worked at Dell Computer, I had to do something related to high availability. And it was some training. And so I learned a lot about that. And, one of the things I learned is that you don't want to just keep your backup. Everybody needs to know this on something at your house, because if there's a fire, it all goes away. So it's good that we do have that. I appreciate the multi-factor authentication that we're doing, even, and it's not too onerous with Outlook and stuff using Authenticator. It's fine. I'm interested. So if there's a data breach, or if somebody penetrates all the, things that we put in the way, your organization doesn't compensate our organization for the loss, do you?
No, that's what your insurance is.
Okay, all right, just thought I'd ask that. I had another one here. Oh, okay, so I'm always, ever since I've been here, I've wanted to know, and this is where I was trying to do some word finding. The data on, you said monitor website use. What does that mean? Monitor website use?
That's probably in some of the detail of what's covered in the country. So the firewall appliance that protects staff and computers here
Mhm.
from the internet. We can monitor usage of where staff are going to.
Oh, okay.
If needed. So for instance, if you wanted to say, the Staples website, something silly.
Yeah, right.
Of course, right? So instead of allowing all the staff to go to Staples, we could say just this one person who needs to order paper and
Oh,
Staples and
yeah.
stuff could get access to it. So we can monitor it. We can also lock it down with the firewall appliance, should the district ever feel the need for certain things to be locked in.
And so you also provide the district reports then if there's some untoward website that people are using, multiple hours a day?
When requested.
When requested, okay, all right.
And we have locked down for certain inappropriate or.
Yeah, there's certain categories that we block.
Like pornography,
Yes, and other things, like known
Yeah.
hacking sites and known spam sites are
uh-huh.
trying to be blocked as well.
Yeah, so it was like 20 years ago that I worked at Dell, and there was some guy that was on a pornography site for 10 hours a day. If you can believe that, but that was before, you could lock things down as well. So, it seems like there was one more thing I wanted to ask or say. I just, I had suggested to, JBWD that we, use a free service to, monitor, to test our, network, and that was not anything against you guys, you know what I mean? I just felt like since we are paying for belonging to this group, it's JPIA, I was confused thinking it was Aqua, that we ought to go ahead and do it. And I felt like when I first mentioned it that it wasn't thought to be a good idea, but then when I followed up, I was happy to hear that we were doing it, so.
Yeah, there's two offerings from JPIA. One is Know Before and the other is called Kind, and that's an
Oh,
acronym.
yeah, kind.
We are working on the Know Before implementation, and then Kind is next on the list, and Matt will offer us any assistance that we need to make sure that it works with our system or provide us assistance if it for some reason does.
If it penetrate, or, just it's another data set for you,
Yeah, the little description that I was given didn't provide much information.
Yeah.
We can provide a third party, this is gonna come out, penetration test called. Where we first externally and internally we can provide that, even for compliance and insurance reasons.
Oh,
Detailed report that will, you hand out, where we can test the system. And it's never a bad idea to test.
no,
the
that
system.
seems like something we'd want to do.
So it is something that
easily,
we can do.
every 6 months or something.
Some insurance asks if you.
Yeah.
Okay.
The issue with insurance, we've had the conversation is, they don't tell you by answering no to this one question, what that financially means to you. It's an issue in the industry. I'm hearing rumors that they're gonna maybe require
Would be a good
insurance
idea.
agencies to say, because you said no, your premium went up by X. That would be good information. Because a lot of people are financially motivated then to take action to solve something, whereas if I recommend something sometimes to some clients or insurance does, they're like, yeah, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
Not realizing they could save money by, plus make themselves more.
Yeah.
JPIA is our insurer for our cyber protection. Their application for our renewal each year, something I used to do, was literally a page with about 6 questions when I first started here. Now it takes David and I several days to get through the application. It's very comprehensive and they ask for all the things that are included in this contract. Are you doing these things? So without that, and if we did check no, that we weren't, we could possibly risk being dropped from the cyber program. So it's really important that we're doing our due diligence and protecting the district, especially now that we are unfortunately a target for these hackers, to make sure that our system is as secure as we possibly can make it.
So I know the thing that I wanted on what I was trying to articulate, the monitor website use, the thing that I wanted since I've been working here is, I'm interested in like a user's path through the website or any kind of reports on, what people are coming, like I use Google for some websites that I work on, where they, tell us what our most popular pages are and things like that.
We have that through our analytics. Are you talking about?
Analytics, yeah.
Yes, we have that information.
Okay, well, so.
That's normally something that can be provided by your website provider.
Yes, okay. I didn't know. So anyway, just because I'm curious, I would love to see that sometime.
They use that information to build our current new website.
Oh, great, yeah.
But the things that people went for the most on the front page.
Okay, I would love to just see that report sometime.
Sure.
I mean, it would be for the new website, but that's fine. And that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Director Fick?
Okay, several questions. You mentioned that you represent a lot of businesses or
Can you
and
speak up?
agencies down in the low desert. Are you based in the low desert?
Yeah, our office is in Palm Desert. I personally live in Yucca Valley.
And do you have many clients up here in the high desert?
We have some, the town of Yucca Valley is a client, 29 Palms Inn is a client.
Okay. And what is the motivation for hackers towards water districts?
I can't speak to that. I'm not a hacker. I can give you some examples.
Okay.
Of just general things, right?
Yeah.
So, one, they know you have address information, possibly personally identifiable information for everyone who gets water from you. Right?
Mhm.
So if they were to gain that data, they can now get access to everybody in Joshua Tree. They could try to open up credit cards in people's names and do charges, things of that nature. That's why it's important. It's also a way to cause a disruption. If we had a major, one in Florida that happened to be seen, that was a big one, that was good. Again, they tried it during the day, so the operator saw the mouse,
Mhm.
so that was awarded. But if they were to mess with the water system, they could, in essence, poison the general public and cause serious issues. If something else were to go on, war, plus they took down our electric grid, took down our water, it would cause a compounding effect and panic.
Our attorney Jeff sent me an article last night about this, and in that article, it said that a lot of water districts, it's delicate infrastructure, as we know. And a lot of the water districts, resources are scarce and they're not taking the precautions like this to protect the cyber side of the business. And they're easy targets to get the information.
That's what I was thinking.
describing. So doing this helps us be a less easy target.
Well, our district has my credit card info, and so that'd probably be the most accessible target for the hackers.
Correct, and just getting your email address and emailing you and getting you to click on something. The attacks today
Fish.
don't necessarily ransom out like it did 5 years ago. They're not looking for a quick $500 from you anymore. They're looking to know all the people that you know, and all the people that they know, and all the people that they know. Because somewhere along the line, that might get them into a very good, maybe a bank where they could really get some financial information. For instance, one of the original Home Depot hacks that happened 8 years ago now, I think. The hackers were in Home Depot's system for 2.5 years before they were ever found out about it. So they were just sitting there watching and trying to gather as much information because they knew it was more valuable than that $500.
Okay, yeah, I remember Home Depot. I had to change my card because of Home Depot back then. Okay, that's about all I have.
Director Jarlsberg?
Mine are a little less esoteric. I do, in previous conferences over the last couple of years, they've been bringing this issue up as though it were new to us. And KIND was one of the groups that did that we really started elevating our concern, I think, as a board anyway. I'm sure staff has been concerned for some time, but, so I'm glad to hear more detail about what's going on here. I wondered, did you help with the new website with it, at all to help it be more secure or anything? Okay,
A long time ago, I don't know, a while back, we decided to not have programmers on staff. It's a little different.
okay, yeah,
And it's kind of getting more and more specialized. Sometimes we do work in conjunction with website designers, depending on what the needs are, and we would certainly do that if that needed.
And you did help us with the domain name transfer.
Yes.
oh,
But not the actual website.
yeah, I've just, started dabbling in the new website and I do appreciate it. You know, I think it looks cleaner and more accessible, so it's
The
great.
links work and stuff. It's nice.
But what?
The links work, you know, you're not hitting.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I haven't got quite to that much detail, but
This part was finding all of
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
I wondered, there was a story on the news, I think, just in the past few days about doorbell cameras that thieves are now have a little device to turn them off. It's so bizarre, you know, no matter what you do, like you said, the thieves will find a way to get around it. And I'm wondering, do we have any cameras outside that are linked to anything inside?
We have a lot of our security is segregated, which is good. We have a different company that we use for security,
Okay,
for the security cameras, that is. So it's
Okay.
not through Southwest, but on purpose, just like SCADA is segregated.
Yeah.
Southwest is segregated, and so are our security cameras.
okay. I think that's all I really had. Thank you.
Director Short.
Oh, one thing I did want to say, Guardian IT peace of mind. I like it.
We originally came up with the Guardian thought from looking at security from a layered approach. That's how we look at things. Building it like a castle, so where you're covered in.
Okay.
Castle.
Well, I like peace of mind too.
Yes, we all.
Okay,
Okay, when exactly does the contract expire?
March 31st.
31st. Do we, on page 22 of the packet, it talks about persistent threat detection. Does that include any type of intrusion detection?
There is some intrusion detection set up on the firewall device that
Okay.
I briefly mentioned before. The persistent threat detection is going back to the Home Depot example. They were persistent, they were in the system.
Mhm.
So we have security in place that looks for that persistent threat that might be lingering in a system and alerts us to it.
Okay. This one might be for General Manager Johnson. What type of VPN service do we use?
Actually, that's through Southwest. You want? to-
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
It's in conjunction with the firewall.
Okay,
So it's a firewall, you have to load a VPN client
Mhm.
specific to the firewall, have an account, have a password, and two-factor authentication in order to create that VPN and
Okay.
call back here to the organization.
And so what's a VPN?
virtual.
Private network.
oh yeah, that's right.
It's like a little
I didn't
tunnel
bring any.
that, you know, that you get to go through, that you're more protected.
Go to the whiteboard.
You want me to draw a whiteboard?
Then explain the encryption.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a scramble of the numbers.
I have to think about
The O's and ones.
jargon and
Mhm.
abbreviations and stuff.
And how frequently are we doing cybersecurity training for the staff here?
So the know before is what we're implementing now. We are still in that process. How many times a year will that be for?
We can do it as often or as infrequently as we.
I think it's scheduled for 4 times a year, but we are sending things out regularly. David sent out
Okay.
a message to staff today about the Biden administration sending out the attack on water systems. Anytime I get a funny looking email, but they're getting so sophisticated.
Well, they
look so
are.
little.
HR at JBWD. We're
Yes.
getting that one.
I'll screenshot it, send it to David. He sends it out to all staff so that they see, what is happening at when your emails are on the website. It's one of the reasons I'm reluctant to put our work emails on the website. It makes us more easily accessible.
Yeah.
And I tend to be on all sorts of things out there, I guess, due to the nature of the position. And I get constant, probably 3 times a week, some sort of phishing scam. So I've gotten pretty good at catching those, but it's scary because, they're getting better and better
Yeah,
at making it look.
I've been getting more actually. Yeah.
So if you have any spidey sense, stop what you're doing and check it out first before you click on anything.
Yeah, I've seen on like my my Microsoft account where it says failed logins, its page is just from a week.
Mhm.
It's crazy how
We
many
send
times.
out weekly email cyber tips to
Yeah.
staff if they sign up. I have a monthly newsletter I send, and then I do a monthly YouTube video, typically around security.
Cool.
And not all of our staff is fully in our system either. So a lot of our field techs, they have access to different programs, but they're not in where Encode is. They're not in where all of the other, bells and whistles are, I guess. So it's not everyone has access to all of the different things. Be careful about that.
I'm sorry, can I make just a point of clarification? We don't store any credit card information on our servers. That is all stored with our third-party provider, Paymentus. They are PCI compliant, payment card industry compliant, and just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you for that,
Yeah.
because that is a good reminder. We don't collect it personally on the district's anything. That's one of the reasons we don't take credit cards in the office.
Okay, just like with Vice President Doolittle was suggesting with the penetration testing, I want to say that I am very much in support of that. It's vital to understanding our vulnerabilities and identifying ways to prevent people from using them. So I would like to have that added into the contract.
Which
The one you're getting from JPIA.
No, what you said.
Yes.
What was it?
Penetration testing. It's basically get at.
If you move to approve this contract, you can say that, move to approve with the additional, but do you know what the cost is? Ballpark? So that they understand what I would be saying.
How often would you like to see?
Would say
Twice a
twice a year, yeah.
Twice a year?
Why don't you do it for us for $3,000?
Start bidding.
That might have been high.
I was gonna say 4. Again, it's a long-term relationship. That's really what's important to me.
Yeah.
We try to treat all of our partners as if it was my organization, knowing what I know in security. What would I do if I sat in your seat? And that's kind of how my recommendations come across. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, or I'm going to give it to you like it is. And it's your idea to determine what your risk level and risk acceptance will be concerning these methods.
I think with everything we've heard today on the threats and the input from the Biden administration, I think we have to have it. I think it's needed.
It's a constant thing, just to be very clear. And again, we meet quarterly to go over things and more frequently if needed. But we're constantly looking at new security that will happen. It's never a one and done. Same thing at your home. Please update your devices, your router, your refrigerator. If it's a smart refrigerator, don't forget to update your refrigerator. Keep those things updated as best you can. And if they're no longer able to receive updates, please replace them.
I will also say that Southwest they're very responsive. We send out a ticket, we get answers, relatively quick, within minutes often. And we've had some unfortunate situations in the past with some staff, and they've been instrumental in helping us with those investigations as well. So they've been a very important partner to us.
But that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Good to know you're still around.
Yes. Yeah, we were founded in 1996, but we're 100% ESOP owned. So all of our employees basically have a say in it. So they're financially motivated to do a really good job for all of our clients. because they can affect their retirement if they do something.
So I'd hate to think that we were switching right now. So this is good.
We've helped you with a number of upgrades over the years and adding new technology and stuff. So that familiarity makes it very easy on us and
Well, address the letter first, the first part of all this, page 18. And I'm pleased to see that there was a price comparison done with another company that does similar work. And
Yeah.
also a key thing in here is where it says if we wanted to transition to another company, there would be a gap. There's potentially a gap. No, it doesn't say potentially. There would be a gap between
Mhm.
old to the new. So on the last paragraph here,
Yeah.
it says that renewing this IT contract is imperative for maintaining seamless technology support. And that's a key thing here, I think. Management, that's general manager usually, consider you a valuable asset by your company, which I think is, says a lot. In other words, I'm influenced when staff wants something
Yeah.
and it's rational.
Yeah.
We should do it,
Yeah.
but everybody's got a vote. If anybody's curious, I had to Google MSP and that's Southwest. It's what managed,
service provider.
yeah, thank you.
Oh.
I apologize for our industry. We like to acronym everything and anything. And then to really mess you up, we reuse the same acronym meaning two different or three different things.
Yeah, right.
I apologize.
My question about persistent threat detector was answered already by another alert director. I kind of like the way you, in the contract, it talks about the use of third party supported software. And what I'm getting from it is that if we are considering doing something else, in addition, that you want to know about it and you want to make sure that it's properly warranted and that we have a service contract with whoever provides that and that you're not involved in it. That I like that part too. There's, I think, about 3 references to such a thing.
Yeah, in working with our clients, such as the staff here, a lot of times making a small change in one piece of technology, people don't realize that it trickles down and connects. For instance, when we work with the power plants, they couldn't upgrade one system because upgrading that one system required them to upgrade 2 other systems. So their budget was budgeted for the one system, but when we had meetings and talked about how things were interconnected and intertwined to each other, they realized that multiple systems were required. We couldn't, if we replaced one or upgraded one, it would have broke 2 others and really caused a problem. So we had to expand the project. So that's where we like to be involved, even if it's not something that we can directly provide, i.e. your website, your copiers and things like that. We like to meet with staff to go over it and provide our input and thoughts so that we're aware of that technology coming into the district. It can make you aware of any potential pitfalls or issues that we can.
Yeah, I think that's what exhibit, which one was it? I think it was exhibit B. It only lists Microsoft on there.
That was one of the third parties that we deal with that.
Yeah, they should be pretty well documented and all that. So a technical or a minor thing I hope is where I'm looking at 2 of 11, page 21, the 4th paragraph. We're referring to a client member there. And elsewhere, there's a reference to a client contact. And I'm wondering if that's the same person. In other words, what I'm wondering is, who do we call in an emergency, or who would you call in an emergency, or who would you talk to in an emergency.
We have an email that we can get a hold of everybody in Southwest at one time, but I mean, if it was a true emergency, I have Matt's cell phone number. I just call Matt.
You have multiple points of contact. What that's referring to is we typically like to work with one or two small group of people as being our main point of contact. What can happen in certain organizations is we'll get bombarded with requests and left hand doesn't know what the right hand's requesting. This is billable, this isn't billable, those types of things. So we like to work with as minimal as point of contacts as we can so that we can ensure things are being done appropriate.
And that is how we organize it. If there's a IT issue, we send it to David and then David contacts Southwest. On a rare occasion, I will do it, but I'll copy David so he's in the same conversation. But mostly everything goes through David to Southwest. That way we have all the information in one place and we can, keep track of billing and make sure everything is taken care of.
Yeah, what I was concerned about was, I mean, what if you're out in some tropical rainforest someplace, surveying the banana population or something out there, and you're not available on your cell phone, and what is if they have a hierarchy of people that they could call in order to communicate something of some,
You mean internally here?
yeah.
So they know their first point of contact is David. They know that I'm also a point of contact. Ann is also another point of contact.
Okay, there's some depth to it. I thought that maybe this,
Client member, client contact, talking, right?
yeah, well, everybody's listed in here, and I thought maybe that would be a useful thing. I forget what page that was on. I got separate photographic things here, but there's a list of employees there. And I thought, Kurt Sauer sat right about over in there somewhere and was talking about, well, assuming I'm alive and assuming the building is standing, that kind of a succession kind of a thing is what I was concerned about. Cause like I get or they get a recording on somebody's phone and then all of a sudden reaction stops because they can't get an okay for something or some such thing. That's the kind of thing I was.
Yeah, they do have several levels of approval that they know they can go through, and we wouldn't want to put the names in the contract because that just gives more cyber hackers more information. And if people leave, then it's no longer valid either. So they have that internally, so they know who to contact for authority or approvals.
It's a banner that comes up on our internal ticketing system, showing all of the approvers to the site. So if staff member who isn't on the, I'm gonna pick on Autumn. If Autumn was to open a request with us, we would not take any action until it was approved or sought out in some form or fashion.
I don't think you would be doing a census on bananas unless you had someone here that knew
Yeah,
that they were responsible now and they had to not forget their cell phone someplace or some such thing.
I did have another question.
Okay, I'm almost done.
Yeah, I
This is
understand.
going faster than I thought it would. Alignment. Alignment. So what I did was I took a look at our hazard mitigation plan. And that was page 42, kind of a paragraph or something 4.3.4. And it says the probability that somebody would attempt something is likely. Cyber data for Joshua Basin Water District and its region indicate that there has been several attempted attacks to the district within the last 5 years. This equates to a cyber attack every year, or an average of 50% chance of a cyber attack in any given year. Let's see, based on this data, Joshua Basin Water District determined the future cyber attack occurrence within their boundaries continues to be likely. And so this is not a hypothetical thing. This is costing us some real money and it's worth it.
Mhm.
And the more I learn about it, the more enthusiastic I get for it. And also there somewhere it says that in your letter, it says that, this is a 3-year contract, but let's not forget that there's constant communication. It's not every 3 years that you folks get together and talk about what's new,
yeah.
which it wouldn't be. There's constant communication and quarterly visits and all that kind of stuff. So that part is good. So the threat is real. The president said so. Apparently, I haven't heard that part yet.
Had one more question.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, so I just have one more question. So, I just was thinking about the phone calls and the phone tree and this sort of thing that he was talking about. Do you guys have passwords then? Because I'm just a little concerned AI could mimic his voice and call you guys and say, oh, I'm gonna send you something. I need you to do this. And, there we go. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that is, AI is hopefully be doing some good for everyone.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the bad guys always like to use it first, if you will.
Mhm.
So that is a potential issue that is out there. There are technologies available to help us mitigate that, but it comes with some annoyances to staff and everyone else
Mhm.
in order to do that. If it becomes an issue or a worry, it is something that we can add. It is something I have looked at. Unfortunately, doing a two-factor, if you were to call me
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Matt, I need some service, please do this for me right away. In order to verify who you are, I'm gonna put extra strain and requirements on you to prove your worth, and a lot of my clients would greatly frown upon
Yeah.
extra. But it is a concern, it does come up, but again, I do watch it. In the other month, I was just at 2 different conferences back to back. First part of April and the end of April, I'm going to 2 more conferences. I'm going out to, again, get more education as the public is concerned, but we can certainly add that to the contract at any time. These contracts are living, breathing. So again, as we meet at a minimum of quarterly, if we feel there's a need to swap out a security service, we always bring those conversations.
Kathleen had something.
I'll go away. I have 2 questions. And one I am going to direct to our general manager. Being that Southwest is a reputable company, they've served us well. But being that JPIA is who's going to look at our claim, since it's inevitable somewhere down the line, we're going to get hacked. Do they have an approval list as they do, say, for federal government, when they want to go out to bid for something, you've got to pick someone off their list, because he's going through all these extra classes on his own, but does JPIA have such a list? Because I'd hate them to say, he's not on our approved list.
Not for cybersecurity, to my knowledge at this time.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, do you have, for my community, a video that is up to date that I could post for customers to be aware of?
YouTube?
In what?
For things of, well, in what form? I mean, technically, what form?
Yeah.
Wrong person to ask that. No, but, a link.
YouTube.
So my website, yeah, there's a way to sign up for my cybersecurity tips. Anybody can do it. Unfortunately, it'll also get put on my marketing list. But my YouTube channel, I do monthly videos every month where I talk about different threats that I'm seeing and things that you should be aware of.
But is it for the consumer, or is it?
It's for everybody. It's not specific to a business. It's for you to use in your personal life, your business life, because it's one and the same in their mind, right? So if your employees get hacked and their bank account gets drained, they're gonna be a little useless to you as your business, your organization, until they get things squared away in their personal life, right? So it's important to protect everybody. And as we mentioned before, that supply chain attack, if they get into an employee or a board member's cyber life, they can use that as a way into here. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to protect both personal and business. So my YouTube channel is not specific to a business necessarily. It's good overall general.
And is that
security
just by
information.
going to Southwest? or-
Yes, and then there's a YouTube link on the bottom of the site that you can go to. It's called Cappuccino Chat. Something from my daughter. I can get into a story. My daughter started me on it because we caught her on the phone making
Oh.
videos. You know, that guy that the kid that used to review toys and stuff, and he
Yeah.
became famous, and he's like a multi-millionaire
Yep.
now. So my daughter would watch, and then we caught her doing it. So she was my first guest on my Cappuccino Chat. I got her back once before. We talked about the Disney Circle to protect your kids at home from the internet. So that was our very first YouTube.
Well, it's something we might consider. So thank you.
Yes, and the cyber tips that get sent to Sarah and David, you could repurpose that and put it in your own newsletter. If you wanted to convey it out to the general public.
Be great. Thank you.
Okay,
So if you're ready to make a motion, I'd recommend making a motion, if this is what your wish is, to approve the contract that you see with the additional security measures that you were asking for.
Citizens Advisory Council, David. Citizens Advisory Council Chair, David is present. Do you have any comments on any of this?
I just got in and I wasn't able to hear it,
Okay.
so I want to go back and listen to it. But as much as I heard, it sounds actually good.
And if you didn't know, Kathleen Radnich is our community outreach person. So she's for real too. I just, that alignment thing that I mentioned, what I wanted was, or what I would like, or what I'd like to see is a continuity between all of these different plans and contracts and stuff that we have. And I think in this documentation that we have here, one of the risks that we have in the hazard mitigation plan was mentioned, and there's about 8 of them here. It looks like there's 8. Fishing, I think, was one of them. But there is a line here in the hazard mitigation that says listed below are a few threats that the district is susceptible to, which suggests that there could be more. I'm thinking that something may happen that could cause some damage that FEMA may be able to do some reimbursing on these kinds of things potentially. That's kind of, because I did add cyber security stuff to the hazard mitigation menu for us to respond to. That's the reason I got into that. So we do have a motion to I better read this one because it's a big deal.
I can make the motion. I'll make the motion to approve the contract with the addition of biannual penetration testing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
General Manager Johnson, roll call, please.
President Flowing,
Aye.
Vice President Doolittle.
Aye.
Director Fick.
Aye.
Director Drawsberg,
yes,
Director Short.
Aye.
And for motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your time.
You betcha.
Well, the second part of all this is second fiscal quarter ending 12/31/23, a financial report presented by Director of Finance Ann Roman.
Much. Good evening. Can you hear me all right? Do I need to get closer?
pull it closer.
Okay. Try to get a little closer to this. There we go. All right. Let's try this again. Is that better?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys ever have any personal questions for your own home computers and technology? Feel free to reach out to them to get a hold of me. Be glad to help you.
Thank you. Apparently that's this.
Yeah, I'm likely I'll do that.
Okay, so we have the second fiscal quarter ending 12/31/23 financial report tonight. This is, as you can see on page 31, we have the normal notes here about using the report. This is a report that was reviewed by the Finance Committee on the 13th of this month. And just the usual reminders, both revenues and expenses are not incurred evenly. Department heads manage their own budget, and this is an operating report, most importantly. Something to keep in mind, and the figures are not final until we see the 6/30 financial, the audited financial report. So on page 32, I have some hopefully interesting statistics for you, some little facts and stats. Cash balances in this quarter have rebounded since the prior quarter with the receipt of the first property tax assessments, property tax and assessments. And also we had some slowed capital spending and no debt service in this particular quarter. So that contributed to the cash balances increasing. Meter sales. So this is kind of interesting. Meter sales, we talked about this last quarter, have slowed. By this time in December of 2022, the district had sold 36 meters, and as of 2023, we had sold only 16 meters. However, 88% of those were in the wastewater area compared to 50% in the prior year. So people seem to not be shying away from that wastewater area. Budget season, we may be aware that budget season is kicking off. We're going to have some workshops coming up in May and looking forward to getting the board's input there. We have also a reminder about investment portfolios. So we are still looking at those alternative investment products, doing some research, and we'll be bringing that information. However, at this point, LAIF is still at the highest level since late 2008, currently at 4% as of 12/31/23. And we also wanted to mention that the Finance Committee reviewed the draft of the reserve policy. So this is a policy that we wanted some input from the from the Finance Committee, sorry about that. And we will be bringing that policy to the board as part of the updated administrative code later this year for input. So I'll move on to page 33, which is our first page of our at a glance financials. So cash balances at the top left in the green, we are currently at 18,201,168 as of 12/31/23. That compared with last quarter, 9/30/2023, where the cash balances were at 16,585,000. And that was an increase of 1.6 million. That's quite a bit, but as I mentioned earlier, that was as a result of those property tax and assessment payments starting up. And we received, you'll see in the next section here, when we get to the property tax and assessments, we've received a large portion of those. And compared with the prior year, 12/31/22, the cash balances were at 17,117,000. And so current quarter 12/31/23 compared with the prior year, that was an increase of 1,083,000. In cash flow for this quarter ended 12/31/23, we started with a beginning balance of $16,585,688. We took in revenues in the form of water payments at 1.9 million. Development fees, 315,000, property tax and assessments, 1.3 million. Sorry, I'm in the top right box now. And HDMC reimbursement, that's the wastewater treatment plant reimbursement and overhead, 36,000. And we earned interest and other miscellaneous revenues at 201,000. That was 152,000 in LAIF interest alone. So our source of funds for that quarter was $3.8 million. And our major use of funds during the same quarter included capital costs and inventory at 323,000. That included the D11 booster upgrade, some work on that, 3 cantilever gates, 3 different locations, and file server replacement, and the E21 reservoir upgrade. And the O&M, operations and maintenance and payroll at 1.8 million. That included, that comprised $2.218 million in use of funds for the quarter ended 12/31/23, leaving us with an ending balance of 18,201,000. In the yellow on the bottom left, the property taxes and assessments. This is where we see that we have billed $2.1 million in property taxes and assessment revenues. However, we have at this point in time received 1.4 million. So we've received a good chunk of that, 66%, excuse me. So that is, above the 50% of the year. We receive those in two payments generally. We receive those starting in November of each year. So very heavy on the that first payment that we receive. And development charges in the orange on the bottom right, we sold 10 meters in this quarter, including 10 in the wastewater area and an additional 2 meter upgrades. And for year to date, we were at 16 meters sold with 14 in the wastewater area and 6 meter upgrades. Revenues there, 315,000 for the quarter and 459,000 for the year to date as of 12/31. Any questions on that page before we go to page 34?
Dr. Jarlsberg.
Just a couple, on the cash flow box.
Yes.
I was just curious what the HDMC reimbursement, if there's a percentage of what they owe or what, what we billed or whatever.
So we pass through all the costs that we pay on their behalf. So whatever costs we incur for the wastewater treatment facility, we pass those through plus 22.5% for overhead.
So, but for the first, you're looking at the first quarter, second quarter, now I'm lost.
At 12/31, yeah.
Yeah, through December, but is there a percentage of what? Does that represent a percentage, like 50% of what they?
No, it's not a specific percent. It is whatever costs are incurred on their behalf during that quarter. And then actually there's a little bit of a delay while we bill and they pay that. So those costs vary from month to month and quarter to quarter. So there's not a specific.
As they
So
go.
is that 100% of what you've asked for?
We collect 100%.
Okay,
Plus.
that's kind of what I was.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And then I have a question on the property taxes assessment yellow box. At the bottom, it says excludes ID number 2 trailing adjustments. What's that mean?
Sure. Improvement district number 2 was an old assessment that has been paid off for probably 10 years or so, but occasionally we'll receive a few dollars of an adjustment for that, either a payment or an adjustment. So it's very minor.
What is the ID?
ID2 improvement district number 2.
What is that?
That was an old area. I want to say that was up where Monument Manor.
It's actually
Yeah, it's an old.
some territory.
Yeah, it's.
And trailing means
So that means-
or?
Right, just leftover.
Oh, okay.
Occasionally we get an adjustment. I mean, it's a few dollars.
Yeah, okay.
$2.
To know what it was talking about.
Usually.
Okay,
Yeah,
Right,
so
that's
they're
it.
not reflected on here because it's so minor.
yeah, but anyway, that's all I had.
Director Doolittle.
Just following up on Director Jarlsberg, I'm wondering, is 22% the typical overhead in-kind factor that we use?
No, it
Okay.
is not. We have different overheads, and this is actually something that's going to be, that cost allocation, overhead cost allocation plan is something that I'm going to be including in the budget for 24-25.
Okay,
Something that we really need to do because we've never had a formal plan prepared.
okay.
So our overhead normally ranges from 1% to 12% for general and administrative overhead. But in the case of High Desert Medical Center wastewater treatment plant, that 22.5% was what was calculated specifically for that project, and that's in the contract. But our normal overhead ranges from 1 to 12%, and then 36 to 60% for benefits overhead. So
I just have another question, just quickly. When we were on the really wonderful tour, there was a company that was there that I thought was managing the wastewater stuff. Are we paying them and then we're getting paid back for that? That's what
Yes.
this is. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Ah,
water quality specialist.
Okay.
That's the outsourced company that does the treatment for that facility.
All right,
Right,
thank
right.
you.
Yes.
Wow, 4 years later and I find
So
that's
it's
become clear. Yeah, okay.
Okay, anything else on that page? All right, moving on. to page 32. We have at the top left, the operating budget versus actual costs, also known as the board report. This is again at 12/31. This is, puts us at 50% of the year. And to start there, our revenues section, we are at 51%, excuse me, of budget with our revenue collections, and our non-operating revenues at 119%. And that number is always going to look a little odd because we have unbudgeted revenues in that section. If you recall, we don't budget our capacity revenues or capacity charges. That is something related to development. And we don't budget those because we cannot anticipate what that level of development might be. So overall, our revenues are at 68% of budget. So that is a good place to be at 50% of the year. In the expenses section by department there, we have production at 44%, distribution at 32%, customer service at 35%, administration at 37%, finance at 36%, human resources at 35%, bonds, loans, and standby at 81%. And the reason that is high is because most of the costs occur at the beginning of the year there. Reports, studies, and plans was at 11%. Capital improvement, CIRP program, that was at 65%. That's a little bit on the high side, but again, that department is really going to fluctuate depending on how much that those crews work on capital versus expense projects. Then we have HDMC treatment. That's again, that reimbursed cost, and that was at 37% of budget. That budget though is, really dependent on what those costs end up being. So that's a rough estimate there when we budget for that. Benefits allocated were at 32%, field allocated at 39%. And office allocated at 41%. So overall, capital overhead clearing, I'll mention that because that one always looks a little odd. And that is the place where we allocate from the operating budget to the capital budget, that overhead. And so it's actually a reduction to the operating budget, which is why it's a negative number there. And the percentage is higher than what we budgeted, which is actually good. It means that we're able to transfer more of our operating costs to capital projects to capture those costs there. And overall, at 50% of the year, we are sitting at 40% of budget versus actual. So again, good place to be there.
Oh.
And to the top right, budget adjustments, just a comment there that we have the forthcoming budget review. So no adjustments made in this quarter. Bottom left, consumption, we have rolling 12-month comparison there from 2021 to 2023. And the change between 12/31/2021 and 23 was 11.83%. And we also have for you the top 10 consumers in the bottom right section. And we have many of the usual customers on this list. The top 5 or 6 tend to be pretty consistent. The others bounce around a little bit. We had an individual there with a leak, so that was one that made its way onto the list, but otherwise they're pretty common customers that appear on that top 10 consumers list. Any questions on that page before I move into detail? Okay.
When you deal with High Desert Medical Center, are you dealing with the health district or are you dealing with tenant?
We deal with, do you
District. It's the district.
Is it the district? Yeah, okay.
So it's being
I think
leased by ten. Okay.
Vice President Doolittle.
Did you see that look I gave him? Yeah, okay, so I just wondered about the report, studies and plans that we're just at 11% here at the end of December. And so we've got 50% of the budget year to spend this $370,000. So what's happening with that? I'm just wondering.
I think there's a large item in there. Let me look to see what that is.
It's the capital
The capital improvement plan. It's a $250,000 budget.
Oh, okay.
And that has not been started. I'm not sure if it's
Okay.
going to happen this fiscal year.
Probably next fiscal year.
Yeah, so that's a large one that's in there.
Okay, thanks for explaining.
Anything else? Okay. So on page,
I have one.
oh, I'm sorry.
On the reports and studies, does that also include the strategic plan as well?
Correct.
I just had a quick comment under the HDMC treatment. You actually, I believe, answer my previous question in this, but
Oh,
costs are 100% reimbursed.
they are 100%.
So that's
reimbursed.
the answer to my question.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
They are. Yeah, over time, there's always a delay in billing them and receiving that, collecting that revenue, but yeah, they're 100% reimbursed and then some. Okay, page 35, we have more detail here of our cash balances. We have the smaller accounts, petty cash, change fund, general fund, payroll fund. So the general fund and payroll fund, those are the accounts that are in US Bank. And then when we look at LAIF, those are in the state agency LAIF. And we have all of the different reserves represented there. $18,201,169 in total. And you can see that breaks down in the middle box there, legally restricted, $4,884,622, board designated, $12,896,000. And then unrestricted, $420,000. And that is primarily those internal funds like the petty cash and change fund and the US Bank funds. And then we have for comparison the prior quarter, 9/30/23, we were at $16,585,000, and the prior year, 12/31/22, at $17,117,000. So currently, as of 12/31/23, we had $17,780,000 in restricted and $420,000 in unrestricted cash. And as I mentioned earlier, in comparison with last quarter, we saw an increase of $1.6 million, in comparison with last year, $1,083,000. Any questions on the cash balances?
Vice President Doolittle.
See, I wait to be called on before I ask my question. So if you look on unrestricted right there and then to the right, there's this little lonely red zero. And I'm just wondering what that is.
It's a reminder. It's actually a check, a little checkpoint. And so if there's a number in there, I need to do a little more work with the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
But it shouldn't be
Zero is
appearing.
yeah, okay.
It shouldn't be appearing on the printout. It should just be on my review screen, so I'll take that out.
Yeah, I just didn't remember seeing it before. Thank you.
Yeah, that doesn't really belong there. Anything else? Okay.
May continue.
All right, thank you. So cash flow on page 36, starting at about 16.5 million. Again, their total cash received during the quarter, primarily from water bill payments and property tax and assessment payments. We also had meter installation and capacity fees at $315,000. LAIF interest was at $152,000. The HDMC wastewater treatment plant reimbursement, that included $6,718 in overhead. Consumer project deposits, we had a little revenue there as well. So we always see that consumer, those are our utility deposits and any other projects that customers provide deposits for. So we're always going to see a little activity there. Special services revenues such as penalties, fire flows, well serves. We had a $3,500 grant revenue and a United Way low income reimbursement, $1,400, and liens and bad debt of $753 that we collected during that quarter, for a total of 3.8 million cash received. And then in use of funds, which is our expenses, we used $2,218,574, including no debt service in this quarter, but we had $147,000 in inventory purchase. Very small compared to some of the other quarters where we had, I think the prior quarter, we had purchased about $1 million in inventory. So you can see how that really waxes and wanes. Operations, salary and benefits at 1.8 million, and then capital costs totaling 176,000, including work on the D11 booster upgrade, the cantilever gates, file server replacement, the E21 reservoir upgrade, some work on Tilford Phase 2, well 14, MyOx system, and the meter replacement program, and the concrete mixer. And that left us with an ending balance of 18,201,169, which was an increase in our cash of 1.615 million. Questions on that page?
I asked, confirm this at finance, this MyOx thing, our project work in progress, as it was characterized, to make our own flooring, which is a safety thing and it's a cost thing too, it's a reliability thing once we get it going. That's what that.
All right.
Any other on this?
Okay. Page 37, we have a little more detail here of the property tax and assessment revenues. Again, in the leftmost column, the 2.162 million, that is billed revenues. And there you can see, I have this on this detail page, the ID2 at the very top. You can see that was $4 that we collected in the year-to-date collections column for that ID2 district. And versus $11 last year, we collected $11. So I just take that off of the summary completely. But in total there, we have collected as of 12/31/23, 1,425,000 compared to the 2,162,000 billed. So right at 66% of collections versus billed revenues. And compared with last year, that we were at 61% of billed revenues collected. So it's looking a little bit better this year. An interesting piece that we look at here sometimes gives us a little clue about what might be happening in reality. We have collected for CMM Assessment District 18% less than last year of prior assessments. And that could indicate that activity in that district is down. On the other hand, in the standby assessment section in the yellow, we collected 9% more of prior standby assessments in the district as a whole, which would indicate potentially that activity, real estate transfer activity as a whole is up in the district in the prior activity. Remember, there, in order to transfer a property, we have to catch up those assessments and property taxes. So any questions on that page? Okay. Page 38, just this is where we would have any budget adjustments. If there were any, there were not. We're just looking forward to the budget process now, so nothing there. On page 39, we have the board report summary, and this, again, revenues, year to date here, total revenues at 68%, water revenues, AKA operating revenues at 52%, property tax and assessment revenues at 114%. Those are fully billed at this point, and HDMC revenues at 13%. Expenses, we have those individual expense accounts percentages for you. I won't read them all again, but the total 40% versus 50% of the year. So very good standing at this point in time, 12/31/23. And we also have, well, the summary, I'll read that. The actual costs of 3.3 million that had been incurred as of 12/31 equal 39.5, or rounded to 40% of the $8.5 million budget. And total operating revenues exceed total operating expenses by 3.658 million. And just for interest's sake, the regular check register rolling 12-month totals at the bottom. So you can see how those numbers fluctuate from month to month. Ranging, from a low of 68,000, which included the avoided check, which is why that was so low, but all the way up to 1.264 million in September of 2023. So quite a fluctuation there. You can see how those costs can hit very differently. Any questions before we move into the detail on the board report summary?
I have one question.
Okay.
The total operating revenues exceeding the total operating expenses, does that indicate anything if it's that much of a difference does that indicate anything like what's going to happen at the end of the year, or is that not an uncommon figure?
It's not really, because the costs will hit so differently throughout the year. Some accounts will expend their budget early in the year. Some accounts will expend their budget late in the year. So
It's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. It's really we're halfway spent, less than halfway have spent our budget at 50% of the year. So we're in pretty good shape. But again, because those costs don't hit evenly, it's difficult to predict exactly where we'll end up.
That was gonna be my point, was that, revenues, it says here, revenues are at 68%. But when you're making penciling out a budget for next fiscal, that's substantially, it's estimates.
Absolutely.
It's estimates of what you think our costs are going to be. And indeed, too, revenue that you're anticipating is also an estimate of that.
Yes.
So that's why we get reports like this, so we could kind of see how it turned out,
Right.
how good you were at guessing what these things were.
Yeah, we have to track it as we go along just to see where we are over time. If we took the budgeting down to a monthly level, which would be a lot more labor intensive, we could be a little more precise with this, but we have not had a need to do that in the past. So I think that it's something that would just be wasted energy at this point. Should we ever, have an issue with maintaining our budget, then, that is something we would consider to be a little more precise with it.
Well, to borrow a question, an issue that Jane had, you can't tell, you can tell when you're going to rehab E21 tank, but you don't necessarily know exactly what that's going to cost. And then, oh, by the way, you might have a booster pump that pops, and suddenly you have to buy yourself a booster pump.
Lightning strikes, things like that.
Yeah, so all of this is, which is always nice to have when all is said and done, have money left over at the end of the
Yes.
year, which rather than the other one.
Absolutely. Right. And we're gonna look at, starting on page 40, we're gonna look at these detailed accounts. And something that I mentioned, I think at the finance committee, is that we tend to look at the departments and the budget as a whole and look at where we stand overall, more so than line by line, because there can be those, miscalculations in there. There can be those fluctuations where costs are front loaded. Or, they may hit at the later part of the year. So that's always something we keep in mind as we go through and review these. So starting with operating revenues, program 39 at the very top, water sales and basic fees are on track with the budget. Right there at 51.50%, and non-operating revenues, again, high because of those unbudgeted capacity charges. 68% overall, so we're in a good place there. Moving into the production department, we have a couple of items there that might be of interest. The power for pumping budget, we know that's going to be exceeded with well 14 coming online, and so we'll be looking at an adjustment for that with the budget review process that we're going through now. Even though it doesn't look to be, it's only at 52.94% now, we know that there will be, that's going to exceed. There's actually some cost there that was not billed, that was back billed later for Edison as well, so that's not reflected in there. And recharge is also a cost that's really front loaded. So water recharge purchase, it's at 61.93%, but very much front loaded. And then I think we received the final bills in January for that. Distribution, we're going to be reviewing the small tools budget, which is at 79% there. Excuse me. So we'll be reviewing that during the budget process, just to see if that needs to be adjusted as well. Customer service on page, before I move on, page 40, any questions there?
Vice President Doolittle.
Just up at the top in the operating revenues, it's kind of nice looking at this after all this time. I struggled so much with budget stuff. Now I can look at this and remember what right of way access was and stuff like that. Old questions. I hope I haven't asked this one before, but what is the private fire protection service? That's a revenue. What's that?
So that is for fire protection meters. They're specifically for that purpose.
Water. Oh, fire protection meters.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have specific, can you speak to that at all? How
We're not talking about those 4,000 things that we have. Or is that what we mean? What's a?
No.
Oh, okay.
Different entities like the hospital, for example, they have a fire loop, which we meter as well. So I believe that's what those meters are.
A fire loop.
A fire loop where it has the same source of water, but it's for their fire hydrant. So basically the hospital can go in and turn on a fire hydrant and hook up a hose or whatnot. And
Oh.
get free water.
I think those are mandatory.
They're mandatory.
Oh, it's free water because they're paying for, it's like a standby fee almost in kind of in a way, isn't it?
It's outside of their actual meter for the building itself.
Mhm.
It's a separate fire loop.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Is that what they poked a hole in a week or so ago?
That is.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, running down the road.
Yeah, they were,
That's
they
wonderful.
were making a pad to put a nitrogen or hydrogen tank on a larger one, and they nicked the source to their fire hydrant.
Oh,
So we had water running all the way down.
yeah, I saw the end.
Well, that was the convalescent
The continuing care center.
thing. Yeah, there's certain kinds of buildings or structures or businesses that require sprinklers and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think that's part of it. I can't remember.
Any other questions on page 40?
Curious as to what right of way access is, how the 25,000.
We have two reservoirs that are on Bureau of Land Management land, and we lease that land from BLM.
At 25,000 a year?
It's gone down.
Yeah.
But we have
Oh, yeah.
infrastructure and reservoirs, so you can't pick up the reservoir very easily and move it. So that's where they're located.
That sounds terribly arbitrary, because I remember the BLM doing $14 a linear mile, half a mile wide for the transmission line.
I had a hard time getting that pricing from them, actually.
They raised their fees a few years back. Yeah, and
And one of those parcels is actually looking to be annexed into Joshua Tree National Park, so that may switch to right of way to Joshua Tree National Park at some point in the future.
They could use the money.
Thank you.
I'll move on to page 41. So we have at the top customer service department. Nothing particularly exciting going on there. Everything seems to be tracking well. In the administration department, I just made a note there that membership dues and subscriptions was running a little high. So we'll look at that in the budget review. And the emergency prep is front loaded again, because we have a contract there that we pay early in the year. So that was sitting right at 70%.
Yeah.
Not concerning knowing that information. Finance is tracking well, human resources tracking well. The employee training is high, and we kind of knew that was going to be the case this year with everything getting back on track.
Yeah.
Being employees.
Getting back from COVID, we had a lot of catch up to do with training. There's a lot of required training that was put on hold because of COVID. Additionally, as you know, we've lost several employees
Yeah.
through the last couple of years of losing certifications. So we've been training up our staff so that we can have all of those certifications back in-house.
They're looking good in every other way. Bonds, loans, and standbys, I mentioned that most of the costs fall there at the beginning of the year. So that's why that department is high at 80%. Reports, before I move on, any questions on page 41? Then we have reports, studies, and plans. We talked a little bit about that earlier, so you can see the detail of what's included in that budget. The large budget there, 250,000 for the CIP capital improvement plan and strategic plan as well. So those don't have any costs attributed to them yet. Capital Improvement Department, CIRP, that is just a little high at 65% in that department, but that's always a tricky one for us to budget because of their flexibility. That crew is always kind of alternating between capital and other expense work, like they have been working on the booster and those types of projects. So HDMC treatment plant, again, 100% reimbursable. That's at 36%. Looking fine. And benefits allocated to departments right in the middle, program 51. That zeroes out because we allocated, but you can see in the very last line for the total, it's at 31.91%. And the individual lines are looking very good there as well at 50% of the year. Field allocated to departments, program 52, 38.88%. Shop expense is definitely high, 92%. We'll be looking at that in the budget review process. And ops and the ops computer support and IT services right in the middle of that section. You can see that's very low at 0.27%, and we have had to make an adjustment there in how those costs were being attributed. So that cost was supposed to be allocated between the office and the field, the ops department, and it was all basically being attributed to the office. So we'll be adjusting that so that it evens out a little bit more in the next section. We'll see how that's a little high on the office side. Any questions on page 42?
So actually, on the shop expense at 92%, that's, they're budgeted for 20,000. It's actually not very much money.
It's not correct. And yeah,
So if they buy a piece of equipment to change large tires on a tractor or a what do you call your telehandler, the crane-like thing that's off the road? If you buy a,
Pettibone.
say again,
The Pettibone?
Pettibone. telehandler, they call it, some other places, I guess. But anyway, because it does telescope. I thought it was something to do with telephones. Telescope. So in other words, when we look at some of these percentages like this, we have to see what was budgeted actually, because it could be a relatively small amount of money that.
Yes, very true.
And when you say we're gonna look at it, does that mean you're gonna look at why it was so high, or
Yes.
because you maybe need to increase their budget?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
We'll look at why and whether there's additional costs forthcoming and whether we need to request additional funds there. Or, perhaps they've already expended, their funds for the year and they're done. Maybe they don't plan to spend more money.
Yeah.
That's a possibility, but not likely at this point in time, but
Not if it happens.
that's, with some accounts, that's a possibility, of course. Anything like the items that you mentioned, though, those are capital items. They wouldn't be included in this cost. These are smaller items, but yeah, in some cases, they may spend more of that money up front and less of it towards the end of the budget year. So,
Yeah, and there's always that surprise factor and all of that too. Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So I'm thinking that when we do review it, we'll look at the specific things that were bought to see if they're in the right category or something too, maybe.
Well, we'll look at that. We won't necessarily bring that level of detail to the board, I think, unless
But
it's
the-
something that's relevant. Yes,
As they're reviewing.
yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about the budget, next
Yes.
budget.
Yeah, I know, but shop expense is a big
Yes.
thing. I mean, generic, it's very generic.
It is, and there could be also in there could be some, some miscodings, so things like that are looked at when we review for the budget as well. So if anything seems really out of whack there, we'll definitely look at that in more detail, but we wouldn't necessarily bring that kind of detail.
No, I understand.
We'd be here all day. Okay, anything else on that? Page 42?
Apparently not.
All right, so page 43. So this is where I mentioned in the office allocated department, right in the middle, the admin comp support IT services. You can see that one's a little high, whereas the ops version of that account was a little bit low. We found that some of those costs were not being properly distributed between the two accounts. So we'll be fixing that. At the very top of that section also, there's a good example of something where we incurred costs, temporary labor office, 76.83%. We incurred costs early in the year, but we don't have plans to incur any more costs at this point for the rest of the fiscal year. So
Does that include a part-time person, or is that just temporary from a?
temporary labor, yeah, it would be temporary. And then we have the capital overhead clearing. This again is that section where we take the overhead from the operating budget and we allocate that to the capital budget where it applies to a capital project. So every capital project has some level of overhead assigned to it, whether it's, we talked a little bit about this earlier, something between 1% and 12%, depending on what type of project it is. And so we would then allocate that. It's a negative because it reduces the operating budget, and it's a positive to the capital budget. So in total there, 39.54% budget versus actual at 12/31/23. So we're tracking really well versus 50% of the year. And any questions on page 43?
Vice President Doolittle?
I just want to understand, what is the word report when you say report surplus? What does that mean?
Oh, at the bottom here? the
Yeah.
report surplus. So
Is that a verb or is it a noun?
that's actually the That's actually the encode terminology. We haven't even changed that, but it's, so it's the generic terminology that they included in this report. So this is the operating board report or budget report, and this is referring to the surplus between the revenues and the expenses. So the revenues exceed the expenses by the 3.658 million. That is a surplus. If it were a negative, it would be a deficit. That would mean that our expenses exceeded our revenues. And at this point, because we're, 50% through the year, that would be a problem if that were the case, but we're actually in good shape at this point.
So is there another phrase that we could use instead of report surplus? Because it's confusing.
We could probably just take the report out and make it surplus deficit.
Okay. Because I mean, the one up above says surplus
The
deficit.
same thing.
Yeah. Okay. It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
there's-
Okay, I see.
Yeah, they give you the opportunity to have multiple funds. We only have one fund, which is our general fund. So they give you multiple totals there in case you had multiple funds. Yeah, so it's a little redundant, but that's the way their report is written, unfortunately. We don't have a lot of flexibility in there, but we could probably change the term.
I'm curious, on the postage, is that the mailing of the annual, or the monthly bills, or what is that postage?
It's primarily, the majority of it would be the mailing of the bills. It would also be postage for the postage meter in the office.
Okay, so there's some company in Anaheim that handles it and they just sort of pass through the
Yes,
cost. Okay.
they do. They do.
And then we do our letters from the office. And we use the postage machine here to mail out all of our letters that are not bills.
Right. Any other questions on 43? Okay, I'll move on to page 45. Page 44 is actually just another set of totals that's redundant also. I don't like to leave it out because it's numbered there. If you see the system numbers at page 5 of 5, I don't like to just leave out pages and, with the, perhaps the thought that there was something missing.
Blank,
Yeah, something
miss on purpose.
Exactly. Yes, something omitted intentionally there. Okay, so then we have on page 45, the water sales consumption statistics as of 12/31. And again, we have our 3 years of rolling totals. The consumption has decreased from 524,607 units in 12/31/2021 to 462,543 units as of 12/31/23. So that again was that 11.83% decrease over 2 years. From 12/31/22 to 12/31/23, there was a 4.59% decrease. Yeah, we are definitely seeing that pattern of that trending downward, that consumption trending downward. And so this is something I believe I mentioned in the finance committee also. I'm going to be looking at adjusting the revenues that are projected in the rate study according to this downward trend that we've been seeing. So we'll have a little adjustment in there for that. We also have our top 10 consumers on this page with the comparison of this quarter and the 22-23 fiscal year ranking and the 2021-22 fiscal year ranking. And again, there, I think I mentioned earlier, the top 3 or 4 or 5 tend to stay pretty consistent as far as who is on that list. I did notice that AutoCamp has kind of crept up on the list in 2021-22. They were at number 9 on the list and are now at number 5 on the list. And then we had an individual, and we don't compare there because they're different individuals, and obviously that was a leak. So not an expected situation. Other than that, we have very consistent ratepayers on this list. Any questions about these pieces?
Any final questions from the board? Director Jarlsberg.
I'm wondering the 11.83 total decrease. How does that relate to the state mandate? I mean, does it relate to it?
It does not really relate to the state mandate. The state mandate, I think, is on, they're looking at pumping,
Yeah, what's produced rather than what's sold.
what's sold, right?
Ah, okay. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, there is a correlation, but it's not a direct correlation.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
obviously, the less we pump, the less we'll sell.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I understand about the losing money factor.
yeah.
That's kind of built into this whole idea of conservation, so.
But that's on the other hand, it's a concern to us because consumption is our number one source of revenue.
It is.
Yeah.
And if that starts to drop down, we
Yep.
have to be careful. But that's another rationale for having appropriate reserves to
It is.
general fund money, whatever it is, to keep the revenue or keep the ability to pay the bills
Right,
stable,
right,
that
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, they're usually referred to as a rate stabilization reserve. We really have that sort of built into our more general reserves, like the cash flow and the other reserve that I'm forgetting the name of at the moment. My goodness.
I can tolerate memory.
The operating reserve. So the operating and the cash flow reserve, those, if you recall, are required to have at least 6 months together in revenues to anticipate covering 6 months of costs. So those are our rate stabilization funds, if you will. We don't explicitly call it that, but that is what those are used for as well.
Reserves, it's just a standard thing, even with, I noticed another thing with the Copper Mountain Mesa contract where they get the bond money, we get the bond money, whoever got the money. I guess we did eventually, but right off the top, there's $200,000 plus that goes into the reserve fund.
Yes, mandatory,
Like so,
yes.
just in case people don't pay their property tax bills and stuff like that, we're still able to make the bond payment.
Right.
Citizens Advisory Council Chairperson David Correa, do you have any comments about all of this?
It's very interesting. It looks like we're doing really good. And that's about it.
That's- it is.
David has something.
Which David?
This one.
This David. I was looking over AutoCamp and they've gone up a bit and this last quarter would be one of the slower ones as far as water use goes. And they're still at the angle of doing 6.4 thousand units. So they're looking to go even higher than what they are.
Have you noticed though that there's more there now than there used to be? There's those black box like trailer things there. So they could have expanded their ability to have clients and stuff, and they could have bumped their
Well,
consumption.
I do know when questioning them when they were coming in, their laundry is off-site. So
Right.
wherever that is, where that's being done.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know why you're looking at her like
The answer to that.
You know, they're owned by Hilton now, so.
Hilton?
Are they?
Really? Well,
And field trip.
if nothing further, is there a motion to receive and approve the second fiscal quarter ending 12/31/23 financial report?
So moved.
A second, please.
Second.
Thank you very much. General Manager Johnson, a roll call, please.
President Logan,
Aye.
Vice President Doolittle,
Aye.
Director Fay,
Aye.
Director Jarlsberg,
Aye.
Director Short.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion carried. Reports and comments, item 8. For informational purposes only on subjects not covered by the agenda, the opinions of individual directors are not necessarily opinions of the board or district staff. No action will be taken. The board may provide staff with requests for future agenda items. Vice President Doolittle.
I have a few things. So I took a budget class recently and, they talked about using a phrase non-spendable fund balance. I don't think we use that phrase on our financial statements anywhere, do we?
We don't on these. It would really apply more to our audited financial statements. Yeah.
Do we have a contingency in our reserve budgets, like 10%?
Do we have a contingency in our reserve budgets? No.
That was something that they suggested. And do we approve a budget calendar? I think that would help me if we did that.
We have a budget schedule internally for staff, but we haven't.
Yeah, fiscal year calendar.
Publish
Well, this is just February, March, April, and then, so I can send you the copy of it. It's just so February Board of Directors approves the budget calendar. March, the department budgets are due to the administration. April, May, budget discussion meetings, et cetera.
We do have a budget calendar that we are utilizing internally that will fall to the board in May. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that might be that would help me to have this calendar. So anyway, I'll send it to you guys. And then the only other thing is, man, you do such a great job and, I don't know that we express our appreciation of you enough. They were suggesting video budgets and video budget reviews, and I think you'd do such a great job if we did that. So then I attended the NWA board meeting, and they had recently a more than $10 million increase in revenue, and their growth was 31.4% over 4 years in tax revenue. They have 160 million in reserves because of expected Delta conveyance facility costs. Their reserves tripled in 4 years. As far as personnel goes, they're projecting a 5% COLA merit increase this year. They had a lot of discussion with that. It was a little complicated for me, something with a base, and if people exceed the base, I was not following it. The board voted themselves a small raise. They review this every 2 years. So I would urge us to consider that as well. And then there was something I think we mentioned at the operations meeting, that there was steelhead salvage at the intake pumps in the Delta, because they were having some problem with the fish getting in there. And then I just wondered, I think I saw something in the check register, if there is ever a thought to have a board appreciation event, much like I saw for the employee engagement event. I know that we like to be thrifty. I believe that sometimes we are too thrifty. And I don't think that there's any expression of appreciation for the board like that. I think it'd be nice after 4 years of being here. I did attend the High Desert Water District board meeting, which I'd never been able to go to because they always were on our nights. And I don't know why I've never looked at their recording. It's a little boring. But anyway, they had one page of strategic goals, and the board discussions on that lasted 20 minutes. So I thought that was interesting. They also have then a bigger, longer operations. So instead of doing their strategic plan where they have the upper goals and then the actual tasks that they're going to do underneath it, they just did the big goals with like a few bullets for task. And then they have another thing that they call operations. So I wanted to let you know that Director Fick and I attended this week an
Monday night.
CSD, yeah. Okay, anyway, in Chino, was at a Basque restaurant, by the way, that had started like in 1948 with shepherds who shepherded sheep, and they would come there. And so anyway, and they served tongue on the menu, but we weren't offered that. One thing, they had some cute social media videos, And they used interns to develop those because the interns were much more technologically savvy. Let's see. I didn't realize that when Metropolitan was formed, I didn't realize they were taking water from Lake Havasu to LA. Is that the LA aqueduct? I didn't, anyway.
There is a canal that comes off of the Colorado River, goes across 62 down into Coachella Valley, and I don't know where it goes past that. They head that direction.
Yeah. Let's see, their allocation this year is gonna be 15%. They have they had something, they've got a new system that they have bioreactive membranes, and I didn't look into that. Oh, and regarding the videos, they have a poop video and they talk about wipes on it. So I thought that would be good. Also, to consider, also I know that there's been mention of, and some thoughts again, I think the board, I think JBWD is being a little too thrifty with the board and it's bothering me. And maybe because I don't feel well, it's making me more irritated than normal. But regarding the number of people that attend these events, I know that Director Short mentioned that one time. But I think we all take away what we take away from a training and things like that. And I don't know that I'm really communicating by coming back here and reporting to you all that you would have taken away, for example. And so I just asked Natalie, who runs it, and the Cucamonga Water District had 6 people there. The Inland Empire District, which was hosting it, had 14, and Monte Vista had 5. So I'm just wanted to give you some examples that being pecuniary and, having this idea that only 2 people should go, I don't think is necessarily in our best interest. And then yeah, that's it. I think that's it. That's all I had. Thank you.
Director Fick.
This will sound like a mouse compared to her. Let's see, several things. One, just your mention of Mojave Water Agency increasing their revenue by 10 million. We're their clients, aren't we? In other words, they're a wholesaler, so they're charging
They
more.
get it from us.
Yeah, they get it from us. Okay, well, not that they're not stingy. They give grants and things, and they're a pretty hip group. Yeah, and so what she said, pretty much everything as far as that goes. Yeah, the dinner that we went to 2 nights ago, Monday, yes. Because I saw it was on Central Avenue, I decided I would go also because as I mentioned, we visited the Montclair Civic Center because my father was the first mayor of Montclair way back in '58, a long time. So I met with the clerk there, the city clerk there briefly on the way down. And we were there 20 minutes early. So we're doing good. I'd be curious as to, in mentioning about the meters, I would be curious as to the last 6 or 7 years as far as the meter count goes. You probably have it readily available, but I'd be curious as to what we were doing before the rush of the STRs. And then I remember seeing some videos a couple of years ago where it was 11 or 12 or something like that. And then now, 2 or 3 years ago, it was up to 50 or something like that?
The decade preceding 2020, there was 100 meters sold, so about 10 a year. And since 2020, the year of 2020, 2021, 22 is approximately 200-ish meters each year sold. And starting at 23, I'm not sure the number, but we are starting to see a little decline. But it was really interesting that in 10 years, 100, and then in 2020, 200 plus, 2021, 200 plus. So that was a huge trend and a huge impact to the amount of work that we were having to handle and deal with. So that was super challenging. But we're still doing a lot more than other districts. I do talk to the other districts, but it is trending down a little.
Yeah, well, so that's in the last 4 years between 2020 and 2024, or just starting 2024, sounds like 250 a year, about roughly, but it was probably, it crested probably about 2 years ago, is my guess. Because the STR situation is in the process of implosion right now. They've saturated completely, and they still have these projects posting along that, you know, they gotta finish the houses in a year or so, so. Yeah, it somewhat affects our water district.
Yeah, we're noticing it too. I think that's part of the reason our consumption is down, is there are a lot more vacancies. And we're seeing that because we're getting a lot of calls from Airbnbs with high, with leaks. And they have a high bill and nobody's been there to monitor it.
Mhm.
So we just finished a huge investigation with one of them, $6,000 bill. So when homes sit, things start breaking.
Yep.
So that's, really important that they're shutting their meter off when they're not.
That answers that question then, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Jarlsberg.
I want to thank the other board members that attended meetings that I was supposed to go to. I've also been struggling with some kind of a weirdness. I don't know if it's medical or what, but anyway, I can't say I'm better, but when I'm with this group, I'm better. And I don't think I attended anything that I should report on. I appreciate the report from your visits. And regarding more people being able to go to the monthly Monday dinner. It seems to me that the reason we limited it to 2 people was we didn't want the appearance of 3 board members getting together, making board decisions. However, I think if 3 of us don't drive there together and we don't sit together when we're there, that we shouldn't have that issue. And I think that's, just something we obviously can talk to Jeff about.
That's, Jeff has brought that up. It's not, thriftiness has always been a culture in our district.
Really?
I think it's gotten worse. I think it's gotten worse. Yeah.
I would,
Bad word.
respect.
Well, I think it's gotten-
I think we're.
Yeah, I haven't heard that
doing
either.
but I think that, it's more of the perception of quorum is the biggest concern that Jeff had brought.
Yeah, and I don't, do we have a volunteer recognition? An annual recognition of volunteers? Because I thought maybe the board would fit into that category.
No, we do not.
Because maybe what she was bringing up might be something like that. I know nonprofits do that, so I mean, that's where my realm of experience is, but I didn't know if it's something that's been thought about.
I just want to be celebrated and given cake. I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't care about cake, but
I know.
recognition is nice. Yeah. But I don't know how you want to do it. That's,
Director Short.
thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Director Short.
I guess I'll touch on the dinners as well. I mean, outside of the quorum issue, I think we also got to pay attention to the topic. Like the one that's coming up next month is also, it's at a water district. They're going to give a tour beforehand.
Yeah.
So I think if more directors wanted to go to that one, I think that's perfectly acceptable. So that's where I stand on that. As for meetings, I attended everything we covered tonight, so. So I don't really have any comments past that.
Okay. We had the meeting of the Morongo Basin Pipeline Commission. General manager attended that too. The headline was, well, might be egotistical to say that the chair position is a yearly thing. And so my year was up and Marina West nominated Bob Statham to be the next chair of that committee, and we voted to do that. So he's, excuse me, he's going to be in charge of that for the next year or so, I guess. One of the things that was mentioned there that was intriguing, we do have just the background with well 14. We have an issue with the expense of electricity on such a massive well. You know, we're lifting a lot of water out of a big pipe, and so that costs a lot of money. And so we're doing strategies try and mitigate the cost, and it somehow became relevant at the Pipeline Commission from somebody from Mojave Water Agency who hosted this time. So we had to drive up there. A strategy may be to reduce the size of the pump motor on there. But I don't know if that's possible because you still have to lift the same amount of water. So I don't know, you might just be burning up pump motors for all I know. But I just thought it was interesting and I thought I'd mention it. I was, well, regarding that, I was early. I don't like entering meetings late, and so I was early and I thought, well, I'll fuel up while I'm here, which I did. And then I thought I would go in and buy some treats to maybe help keep me from falling asleep on the ride back, which is always a risk with older people. And so what this is about, it's about the value of $1 and cost of things. And you hear the common phrase is that prices seem to be going up all the time, which is partially true if there's demand or supply issues. And but there's the simple inflation because of the way I always hear that government borrowing from itself is one of the drivers of inflation. So what it amounts to is the dollar has less spending power. If you got $100 in the bank and the inflation is 5%, well, your $100 has only got the buying power of $95. And on the supply side thing, if a business has to sell 5 of something, check me on the math on this. If a business has to sell 5 of something in order to keep their doors open and pay their employees and all that kind of stuff, but they can only get 4 of them to sell, they've got to raise the prices on those 4 20% to keep their doors open. And so the value of the dollar is a key thing. Now, what did Bob buy when he was inside
I was looking at that, yeah.
the store? And so this is what I bought: M&Ms. Yep, others trash. M&Ms, 2
Peanut butter M&Ms.
yeah, I thought I'd try something different. Sometimes I like to break the mold.
Live dangerously.
But anyway, I always buy these. I've been buying these all my life. But this was $5.97 for these things. I don't know if there's a supply issue there or not. But there's certainly, I think, a
Chocolate.
convenience issue. They call them convenience stores. And so this cost me $5.97 for these 3 items. When I was a kid, I'm almost the oldest person in the room. When I was a kid, I could buy these $5.97 worth of candy for 12 cents. And a lot of that
30 cents for me, yeah.
is simply the buying power of the dollar. And this is the kind of thing that we're confronted with.
Yep.
Mojave Water Agency is confronted with it when they set their rates. That's why we have rate studies and stuff. And so we can't just blame it on stores or water companies or anybody else when it's simply inflation and the value of a dollar dropping all the time. So you need more of them to buy things. So it's something that, we hear about it a lot at the market. And it's something that it's a way of looking at it that I think everyone should consider. So I monitored the Bighorn Desert View Water Agency meeting. And they have a new director there, who's a friend of mine. And somebody on their board asked him a question or for his opinion on something, and he just sort of says, well, I'm new, I'm just taking it all in, is what he said. And one of the other directors, as a response, says, just keep swimming. is what he said. And that's fundamental, good advice is you just, this is complex. It's complex for staff. It could be bewildering for board members. I've been around a long time, so I know that I spend a lot of my time being bewildered. But you just keep going, what's next, and just keep on going, because we have a mission. It's nailed on the wall over there. And if my glasses are still good, it says to provide, protect and maintain Joshua Tree's water, our vital community resource. And just keep that in mind and just keep swimming. And that's all I have. 8B, General Manager Report.
Okay, thank you. So I asked our newer HR generalist to do a survey, and I wasn't gonna talk about this tonight, but it's relevant since it got brought up. All of the board stipends for the same competitor districts that we use for salary. And of those, what we learned is the highest stipend is High Desert Water District, and that's at 175 per meeting. The second highest is Joshua Basin Water District at 173.63. The others are 150, 162, 100, and 100. So I thought that that was interesting. It's a beginning, it's not the end, but I just thought it would be interesting information to share.
I would just be curious to know if what benefits some of those people. I imagine what happened here and why ours was high such a long time ago is they gave up that insurance, and then the money that was being paid to the insurance, they added it on because it's been this rate for a long time.
So I do have the answer to that. So High Desert Water, they can elect medical, dental, and vision and pay the same amount as employees. They don't know what that amount is. Bighorn can elect dental, but they have to pay the entire cost, 100%. And it looks like Mission Springs, they pay at the same rate as employees. And that's all I have. Some of the folks did not respond to our survey request.
So that's different than us. All those places are different than us.
They're different, but yes, in regards to benefits, that's correct. So anyway, thought that just was relevant since it got brought up and we were just looking at that recently.
And that Mission Springs, they send a pile of people to train. Like, there's 9 people that go to train, because I know those people. So that's why
We can look at in our training.
to the aqua and stuff. Well, remember, we reduced our training budget by $5,000. Yeah, we did a couple years ago. Used to be 25, now it's 20.
No, it's 30. Are you talking about for the director's budget? Oh, the director's budget is 20 and it's still has not been exceeded. So there's plenty of room in there for training. So if there's training that you are wanting to go to, let us know and we could just sign up for it. I was contacted by Twine Palms Water District regarding an 81-acre parcel that they own within our district boundaries. They have a reservoir on that parcel. It's at the very far southeast corner of our district. It's been owned by them since 1998, I think it is. And they pay a standby fee on that parcel to Joshua Basin Water District.
Much.
About $1,300 a year approximately.
Let's make it 25,000.
Well, they're interested in annexing in that section of land. We're looking at some other options. So I just wanted you to know that's on the radar or something that we're looking at. The next thing we have, we are interviewing for that compliance coordinator position. We're hopeful we'll have a good outcome to the recruitment. We've been busy preparing budgets. Yes, we are frugal. We are careful with every dollar that we're entrusted. However, where I respectfully disagree with the frugality is when I started here, Ann and Autumn, for example, had file cabinets that didn't have handles. They had desks that were propped up by broomsticks, not really, but basically. And we're much better off than that now, but we're just very careful how we spend our dollars because it isn't our dollars, it's the ratepayers' dollars. Along with preparing budgets, if you recall, every year I've been bringing an employee compensation plan. Last year, we changed it up a little bit. We did the closed session first, and then we came back, and that seemed to be well received by the board. That is in a weird timing of the year, talking about budget calendars. It comes in September and October. And the reason for that is that's when the union disbanded. So we had to come in and put a comp plan in place at that same time, the year that happened in 2021. So I want to bring that in alignment. That's why Sloan and I were laughing about the word with the budget, which makes the most sense. So we'll have a closed session coming up during this budget season to talk about that. And in addition to that, this busy budget season, finance and WRO will be canceled on April 10th. And so we'll send out a new rotation calendar for your committee meetings. On April 17th, that board meeting will be canceled. I'm planning to be at the State Water Resources Control Board meeting that day in Sacramento on the Chrome 6 MCL that's planned to be proposed. The next thing is we have the operations workshop. So while April will be a little quieter, May is going to be busier. So please prepare for it. Based on board member requests and comments from last year, we've changed it up a bit. The first meeting in May will be an operations workshop. It'll still be on our same meeting day, but we're going to start at 3 so that we have fresher minds. And then on the WRO meeting on May 8th, that will have capital budget presentations. I know that Vice President Doolittle will be at Aqua, but she's going to attend remotely as we discussed. But I encourage any board member to attend remotely or even in person. You can't participate, but to be a part of those presentations. On the second meeting in May, we will have the capital budget workshop again at 3 p.m. instead of our normal 5:30 start time.
What's the date?
So those are our normal dates and our regular meeting dates, and it's the first meeting in May and second meeting in May and the WRO committee meeting. So all the same dates, just the times will be different on the 2 regular meeting dates, 3 p.m. instead of 5:30. And as another request of meetings that I've attended, I just give you the highlights because I attend meetings all the time. It's half the job. I attended on the 7th, Basin-wide Foundation Quarterly Luncheon, actually, Director Ellsberg was there as well. We received an update on the City of 29 Palms and also a presentation on USDA loan programs. On the 12th, I met with the U.S. Water Alliance folks regarding possible loans with principal forgiveness through SRF, which is State Revolving Funds, or possible low interest rate loans. And we discussed this based on the new Chrome 6 regulation that may be forthcoming. So they were helpful, and they think that we are a prime district for the type of program that they offer. They don't charge for this. And it's super interesting. I'm learning a lot through it. Doesn't seem to be terribly grant-based, but they would point in the right direction of grants should they be available. It's more loan-based. On the 13th, I attended the Pipeline Commission meeting in Apple Valley with President Flowen, and it was his last day as the chair of that committee, and he did a fantastic job. It was really nice to see him up in the fancy MWA presentation. We received an operations update, and I found this very interesting. Of the water that gets allocated from the state to MWA each year, that they give a percentage. And if you remember, about this time last year, we were at 100% allocation, which is super rare. I don't think it happened in more than a decade. This year so far, we're at a 15% allocation, which is okay. The weird part is where that water comes out of the San Luis Reservoir. The Fish and Wildlife has shut down or lowered the pumps to bring that water out of the reservoir because steelhead trout have decided to spawn there. So they're having their families, and no water can be taken during that time. So it's really interesting. While there's an allocation, we can't get the water. So if we don't have a drought, we have a fish problem. So it's one of
Steelhead.
Yes.
Cool.
That is cool.
Let's go fishing.
Yes. And on the 18th, I met with the IDM group. So that's the group of managers for Morongo Basin, the Improvement District Morongo Basin on the pipeline. And we worked on the contract for about 5 hours. It's pretty grueling. We made some progress, and we're going to meet again in May and keep making progress. And we'll bring an update to the commission as we move along through this. All of the commission, along with all of the managers and MWA, have agreed to take this slow. And in the meantime, we just operate as business as usual. Everybody's on board for that. We already have an MOU in place. You may not know this, that was signed in 2002, that we would get this work done. And here we are in 2024 doing the work that should have been done probably way back then, but it's getting done now. It's slow, thoughtful process. with a lot of discussion, trying to make sure that, you know, every T gets crossed, every I gets dotted, and every thought about the pipeline gets talked about, discussed, and entered into the contracts if it belongs there.
Hmm.
And that's the end of my report.
Questions or comments from the board? Director Fick?
Can you remind me what our current chromium-6 level is for our water district overall?
Overall, we're about 23 MCLs, and the current MCL maximum is 50, so we're well below the 50 that's current. They're looking to reduce it to 10 is the last, you know, what we've been hearing for a long time.
And the court said it should be feasible, so,
Well, that's the argument, isn't it?
Mhm.
so if we hit a 25, we're okay.
Well, feasible is financially feasible.
Yeah.
Right, so is it physically feasible? Yeah, I believe it's physically feasible with the treatment options that are available. Financially feasible is another question.
That's why we want lots of reserves. And if we
That
got,
our reserves would even touch the cost of building the treatment facility, quite frankly.
right, but having
Yeah.
the reserves, being financially stable, the bond could be at a better rate.
That's correct.
Wow.
We would be a much better candidate for any types of loans, grants, because we are a very solvent district.
Anything further from the other folks?
Well, I just wondered if you're now emeritus president,
Say again?
the emeritus president for the pipeline? No, I'm kidding.
Let me see, do I still have a heartbeat? This thing about the stipend, kind of a thing, one of the ways, the important way I think that we approach this, in other words, if we do some of these insurance things and raise the stipend and all that, it gives the appearance, potentially gives the appearance with the public that we are from here, representing the district, as characterizing and describing things to the public as district agents. And I'm not buying that. What we're supposed to do is come in here with a sense of skepticism. And we're coming in here as representatives of the community that we serve, that we volunteer to serve. And we're not from the district, we're from the community, and we're here, and we're saying to Ann Roman, what are you doing with our money? Justify these expenses. And how much is left over, and what should we do with it, and things like that. So I don't want the optic, so to speak, that we're employees of the district out there dictating or explaining stuff to the public. We're from them, and you're supposed to justify what you're doing to us so we can tell them. And that's the way I look at it. I'm also, I brought this up at finance where early on, Director Short, when we were touring some of the tanks and stuff like that, you know, I somehow came up why he was in my Jeep with me, kind of a thing. Well, he said he wanted to give back something to the community. And he doesn't apparently remember that, but I did. And that's the way I look at it. We're representatives of the community. We are not employees of the water district. It partially defeats our function. If we come here to earn a living the way you folks do, we're just here to watch what you're doing, kind of a thing. So this migration to that type of a situation where we're getting benefits and increasing the amount of this stipend thing sort of erodes what I believe our intentions are. Would you like to comment about that? Okay.
I will.
Yes.
I've been probably more community oriented than anybody on this board, as far as I've been out here for 37, 38 years. And through my efforts, this water district has $47,000 in 2017 through blood, sweat and tears of me and a group of people fighting the JT Solar. And then also through our efforts, not quite the same group to people, we got $120,000 to the Mojave Desert Land Trust through our efforts. These are things that go from the community, well, you know, battling Walmart or battling NextEra, some of the biggest corporations in the world practically. We battled them, the mitigations, it comes, so we do give to Joshua Basin Water District and we do to Mojave Desert Land Trust. So it's a back and forth. And I've been involved in a lot of community battles in these 35 years, so.
Well, yeah, the community participation in what goes on here is not monolithic. You know, we're not the only game in town. There is a complex set
Yep.
of community groups that do different things that guide us. You know, that make sure that as a community, we are headed in the right direction where we want to go.
Yep.
And so I'm pleased, I'm satisfied with the way things are now. And I just wish that somehow, I don't know what we need here to make it these meetings more attractive to our constituents
Yeah,
that will, you know, come here and test us too, to make sure we're doing a good job as watchdogs of the district. And I can, you know, generally speaking, what we're seeing when we're here is pretty darn good. But we're still,
Indeed.
we have to watch what we're doing with the money and also compliance with all of the things where if we don't comply, we could get into trouble with the state, kind of a thing. Dr. Charlesburg?
the minor thing I wanted to say is that we're kind of handicapped because we're at the top level of our reimbursement for our time. If it had been, because it's been for so long and there was no place to go, that's kind of the principle that I see in evaluation is to evaluate fairly low. So we had someplace to go when, you know, in the future or when things are better. And so I think in a sense, we're handicapped because we do have that level and it's been for years. And you think after a certain amount of time, maybe there should be some increase, but it wouldn't make sense in the eyes of the community, I think. And I agree with what the president, Flown, whatever his name is saying. My brain, I'm sorry, it's very weird these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
And, but anyway,
Yeah, let's go.
yeah. So anyway, I think the meetings have to be as long as they are
We have a
productive.
motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? This meeting is adjourned at 7:57.